Hello, Shando. So you are from Monomyth, and
Yes.
this weekend we are down the hill
Yes.
in the north of Belgium for finally a real festival again.
Finally, yes.
Um, so how has it been for Monomyth for the last year and a half, couple of years with the lockdown and everything?
Well, let's say it was a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because prior to the Corona lockdown, we changed our bass player.
Mm-hmm.
So we did one gig with Jason, the new guy.
Yeah.
And then the
It stopped.
lockdown, so everything stopped.
Mm.
And in the first few months, there was no option to do a proper rehearsal.
Mm.
So we did a few, let's say, creative things, over the internet,
Yeah.
trying to make each other enthusiastic about new ideas.
Yeah.
But then we discovered that we're really a band that needs to be
In the same
in
room.
the same room and interchanging ideas to get to proper music.
Yeah.
So, but on the other hand, there were a few options for us that we could play, like live streams.
Yeah.
So we had a few things that were still on the agenda, so that kept us going.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we created a few new tracks, which we're gonna play
Yeah.
tonight, actually.
And that's tracks that you've been working on like from a distance.
No,
Mostly.
no. Only when we were in the same room.
Okay.
But then again, we started working on things, and then we got another lockdown. And,
Yeah.
So it was very frustrating. Yeah. And at one point in time, I said to the guys, I don't want to do 3 rehearsals and then quit and then wait and then start the whole thing up. So let's take a break.
Okay.
And do what you like, and then we'll see when we may get together again. So this was a nice opportunity, and we have 3 gigs in a row this weekend.
Yeah.
Actually 4, because tomorrow we play 2 gigs. So yeah, it's almost surreal now. Yeah.
And so when did you started to get together again, like in a rehearsal room and preparing for that?
For day shows?
Yeah.
1 week ago.
Okay. And so in all that time in between, you've been like on and off again, and that kind of break.
Yeah. And
That's-
there was also a vacation holiday.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
Some of us went away, and family things.
Yeah. And so those new tracks you've been working on, when or how did that work in that time schedule, kind of?
Those ideas were already there.
Yeah.
From the last year and a half, and we had those ideas recorded. So when we got back in the rehearsal room, we brought it back in.
Yeah.
And decided, well, we have 3 new things, and 2 we're gonna play now. These 2 tracks are somewhat ready for the stage. So this is a good opportunity to try them out.
Yeah, because I think that's something I read in an interview you guys gave like a few years ago in Berlin to another French blog. That the way you're working as a band is like you really all working together. There's not like one guy bringing especially something for the others. It's really everyone working together and especially expressing itself like freely without any kind of filter to make the thing go on.
Yeah, and we try to react on an idea and then change it and see where it ends.
Yeah.
Basically, that way of working is still how we do that.
Yeah,
although we have new band members.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Because like I think in between that interview that I must have read and that you've changed at least the guitar player and the
bass player, yes.
And how has it been like to make the lineup evolve? I guess with that kind of way of working together, it went kind of smooth.
Yeah, well, in a way, and you have to revisit your older tracks to see if they still work with because a bass player and a guitar player are very important things in the sound of the band.
Yeah.
But no, that went smooth in a way, and I think that the way we work now still is in most of it is the same. And although our new guitar player Boudewijn has a very how do you say this? He is very good at, you know, tell everyone what it's all about in what's happening in some ideas.
Yeah.
He's classical trained,
Yeah.
you know, so he knows how to tell you things.
Yeah.
And that what's the main thing that's different in this is that it's happening a bit faster. In the early years, we had to figure out some, you know, we played something and we didn't know how to make a proper end.
Yeah.
How did we do this? And he knew know all the tricks.
Yes, that must
From
help.
from his training, and that helps us
Yeah.
to you know, balance out things even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you've worked on 3 albums at the beginning that were kind of a trilogy.
Yeah.
That were going together and.
Actually, the end of the last album, the
Yeah.
fourth of the 3, starts with the same sounds that also
Starts
so
at the
it's
beginning
it's
of
an
the
endless.
first. Yeah. Yeah, and so is Orbis Quadrantis like a new the beginning of a new trilogy, or more something in like frozen in time?
That trilogy was written while we were making it.
Yeah.
That was not an idea that we had in the first place, because we made the first record, and then Jurgen from Roadburn and Burning World Records, who initially released our first album, says so are you up for a trilogy? So that triggered us. Oh, maybe that's a good idea to do that. And but we also made Orbis Quadrantis, which is more of a, you know, one piece.
Yeah.
And but the link with the water is still in the new tracks. So yeah, but I don't think that this is going to be a new trilogy. I don't think so.
And at the same time, must have been a bit frustrating because like Orbis Quadrantis was released in 2019, so you've not been able to really tour with it, and or am I saying something wrong?
No.
Like how do you do that? Because like usually when a band releases an album, they like to tour after it to like show it to express it.
But
to
we
the
did
world.
that. We did that with Orbis Quadrantis. But there was a bit of a hassle around the release, because we wanted to release early 2019, I guess, and then our keyboard player needed to have surgery.
Yeah.
So the album was delayed.
Yeah.
All the shows were delayed till September 2019.
Yeah.
So we did a tour, and then on early January 2020, our bass player decided to quit the band.
Yeah.
So we had to look for a new bass player
Yeah.
and make him familiar with all the music. And then we did one show, and then the Corona came.
Yeah.
So it's that's a bit frustrating. It's a bit of a lost album for us, because we did a few shows, but not a whole tour or whatever. No. That's sad, but shit happens.
Yeah. And so what you're doing right now is like you're taking this drive again as it was broken, and making it evolve at the same time.
What we're doing now is see what we can do, because we're still not sure what is going to happen in the industry.
Yeah.
I'm also working as a sound technician.
Okay.
And you know, I got some of my work back next month, but there has to be one evolving mutation of the virus, and everything goes back into lockdown. So it's a very uncertain thing. and I don't want to, in the earlier stages of the band, I wanted to think, 3, 4, 5 steps forward,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing that at the moment.
Yeah.
I see what comes to me or what comes to us, and then react on it and see what we can do, and that's it. And now we have these 3 songs, and I think we're gonna do an EP or something,
Okay.
and then release it, and yeah.
Yeah, take it more as it go for the,
Yeah,
for the time being.
yeah.
until-
Because it's always so much work to set it all up.
Yeah.
You have the record company, the
Yeah.
record recordings, the album covers, and then the whole organization that goes with setting up the tour, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't want to be again in a situation that you said, no, we can't do it because COVID or whatever. So
Yeah.
we take it easy, and we're still here and we're still doing our thing, but we took it a bit.
Yeah, finding like a middle way.
Yeah. And when we see next year or whatever, when we see that it is opening up, really opening up, well, then we're just still there, and then we.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's probably how you see also the things about gigs starting again, like opening up, like we can see this weekend with Down the Hill, or
But this
like
is this is very unique, because in the Netherlands there is nothing like this at the moment.
Yeah. I've seen that there's been a few shows like here and there in the Netherlands.
Yeah, but it's
for example.
but it's always seated.
Yeah.
And so it's a very strange. We did a show yesterday in a huge venue, seated. Yeah, well, I think it was a good show, but it's very strange to play to a theater audience.
Yeah.
I like the people move in, and
Yeah, you need some interaction.
and it's very static in a way. This is not the nicest thing to do on a stage. No.
Can imagine.
No.
And so you got some gigs lined up for the end of the year?
Yeah.
Or
We still
some festivals coming up?
No festivals. We still had a few things, because we played at. We should have played in 2020 at Burg Herzberg in the Freak Valley.
Yeah.
Those bookings are still valid, but
For when it will happen?
When will this happen?
Yeah.
And we have a few gigs till the end of the year, which are also bookings that were rescheduled from earlier moments. We'll see.
Yeah.
Originally it was a tour. All those gigs were a tour.
Yeah.
And now it's a scattered, into fall and winter. And so,
And so is it some gigs in Netherlands or also wider in Western Europe?
No, all in the Netherlands.
All in the
Netherlands? Yeah. And the festivals that were happening in Germany, that is all rescheduled for 2022. Yeah, already.
Hopefully.
We're getting old.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, so I think we'll probably wrap this up soon. I just have a last question for you.
Yeah.
Is there any album or artist that especially got you hooked in the last few months or year, or something that helped you maybe for the last year and a half? A few things.
Well, I'm also producing electronic music,
Okay.
like techno
Yeah.
and electro, a bit of a Kraftwerk-like stuff. And to be honest, I'm not that much listening to other music,
Okay.
because every morning I have a studio in my home, and every morning I get a cup of coffee and then we go in the studio and make a new track.
Yeah.
So what I listen to most of the time is other electronic stuff that's made by a few friends of mine who also working from their homes, and we are interchanging. Have you heard this? Because it's good to have a reference from someone else. So it's mostly electro stuff from guys like Lloyd Stellar or Crommer Soul or Kraftwerk or Laserhawk, but not one album in particular. No. Most of the time I'm working on music.
I understand how it can be. Anyway, thanks a lot for your time and your answers. That's been a nice talk, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to your
Well,
show
we're
in a
also,
few hours.
yeah. I think it's almost time to prepping. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, maybe soon.
Thank you.
So thanks,
All right.
and see you soon.